From Central Dogma underneath Tokyo 3, it's the IGN Digigods. So please welcome two men who actually understood the story behind Evangelion. Did I say that right? Evangelion? 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 Evangeline? Vangelis? Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Oh, everyone except Evangeline Lilly and Linda Evangelista. Who sent that in, Corey, by the way?
That was brought to you by Kevin Lower. Kevin Upper was not available.
Yeah.
Is this our first show of the new year?
No, last week was our first show of the new year. Don't you remember we read some New Year's greeting? Really? Did you drink that much?
No.
Grief.
I don't even drink that much anymore.
Okay. Yes.
I don't drink that much anymore because I have to get up early to go to work. I have to be at work at 7 a.m. So when you have to be at work at 7 a.m., you tend to not drink because you can't afford to be hungover.
Unless being awake at 7 a.m. drives you to drink, which is sometimes a possibility.
And I'll tell you, I would make a great alcoholic.
I know you
if
would.
I decided to go that way.
Oh, I know you would.
Last night, because it was on a weekend, I had a martini. First drink I've had in a while, just a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Tasted so good. Oh, be awesome. I'd love to be an alcoholic.
Isn't it funny how no one ever thought to take a martini, make a really big version of it, and call it like a Mar Maxi? Or a Mar Biggie? A Mar Hugie? A Marmungus? Okay, never mind. You're not laughing in the least. You're angry at me for that one.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
It's the end of the internet.
Some housekeeping first. We are taking submissions for our new intros, which we'll be recording in a couple of months or so. So don't delay. If you got some good ideas for intros, go ahead, file them our way. Just send them to gods@digigods.com. Listener mail, as always. We're not going to get around to any listener mail or Vox boxes today. We got too much material. Got too much material. We got kind of like a backlog. But we got a backlog from the holidays, and we got to sort of try to clean out some of the coverage so we have some room.
Now, when you say backlog from the holidays, does that mean that you'll be talking about more Christmas DVDs?
I will be talking about things that came out in November of 2010.
Okay, good.
That's what I mean.
As long as it's not like Christmas of 2010.
Actually, there's a few of them, but it's
will Obama win a second term?
Yeah, no, exactly. No, there's a few Christmas stuff that came in late, which is sort of funny. Like Twisted Sister or Twisted Christmas live in Las Vegas. Hey, it's good any time of the year. It doesn't have to be Christmas.
And you know what? Technically, we just talked about it, so don't talk about it.
Okay. But meanwhile, send your Vox boxes and your emails to gods@digigods.com as well. So just send it all in, submissions for Vox boxes, listener mail, and suggestions for the new openings, and we will put them all together and we'll file it on our end. Mark, Oscar thoughts really quickly.
I thought that the Oscar nominations were generally very fair. They were across the board. There's going to be some snubs, and there's going to be some surprises like there are every year.
Yeah.
But I can't really say that although in specific categories, yes, I can't say that the Oscars are in any particular mood. I think that maybe you're starting to see, which they want, a slow turning of nominations into a more youthful...
I think we're going to see something very interesting this year, and I think you're right, but I don't think that's necessarily the normal trend. I think because they've gone to online voting and they've gone to earlier voting for the nominees this year, so you have a shorter window within which to actually see the movies you're going to nominate and a longer window within which to see the movies you're going to vote for the winner. And I think because of that now, there may be many more surprises in the wins than we expected. You used to be able to kind of gauge these things based on how nominations corresponded to wins in the past. The director's category this year is bizarre because normally you'll have 4 out of the 5 nominees common between the DGA and the Oscars. This year, only 2. I don't know that that's ever happened before. Certainly not in my lifetime. And I think that's because going with the earlier nomination process and online, you're sort of intentionally disenfranchising the older voters that might have been inclined to vote for Ben Affleck or Catherine Bigelow or Tom Hooper. And instead you get like Ben Zeitlin in there and you get David O. Russell in there. And that's unusual.
I don't know that the older voters would vote for a woman. But I will say this, that if nothing else, I think that the online voting is accelerating a trend that was inevitable, which is that Oscar voters, average age 62, are going to start aging themselves out and be replaced by younger voters.
But we also might see, well, that happens every so often. I mean,
sure.
like you always,
generation
you can always see the year where the thing changes. You know, for example, when Silence of the Lambs won, that was a real changing of the guard. It really was. You know, because Silence of the Lambs is a film that would not have, you know, here you're talking about 1991, right? Silence of the Lambs.
Right.
And the year before was Unforgiven. That is a real sea change.
Sure.
Or no, I'm sorry. 92 was Unforgiven. The year before was Dances with Wolves. Same difference. So that's a real sea change. And you kind of hopscotch through the 90s, and you realize that there's this change going on. Same thing happens when you go from 68 to 69, from Oliver to Midnight Cowboy. It's like, what the hell happened there?
Right.
But then again,
but that was also the end of the production code.
And the production code. But then you get into some very traditional stuff with Patton and The Sting. But then you get into, Godfather is not quite so traditional. I mean, it's classic, but it's violent and it's edgy. And, so there are these moments, and they're usually about every 20 years, early 70s, early 90s, where you start to see those things shift. And we're about in that place right now. So, I mean, I think we've been seeing a shift for the past several years. But I don't know that this year, I think we may see a really interesting break from the votes and the nominees, because I think now as a lot of those older voters come flooding back in and see the films that they wish had been nominated, they might just rebel against some of these nominees.
That's possible.
Yeah.
That's possible. I mean, I know that there's always that joke that the older voters just have their maids watch all the screeners and just have them decide who they're going to nominate.
Yeah, well,
I think they're realizing that this is what happens when you leave it up to the kids,
indeed,
to decide the nominations.
Mark, we got a lot. We got gobs and gobs of documentary material, and a lot of it is really important. But I want to blow through it really quickly, just to let people know what's out there. Some of it we haven't gotten to because of the holidays.
Wait. Are you blowing through all these?
I'm going to blow. This is the PBS pile.
Okay. You blow through all these. I'm going to get you this week's cookie.
You do that. So PBS comes out with so much stuff, and I always feel
this week's cookie, by the way, based on a movie. So it's not just a cookie; it's a cookie that's based on a documentary.
Mark is going to give me a Lincoln cookie.
No, it's I'm going to get you a fortune cookie, like the Jack Lemmon movie, or the Jack Lemmon fortune cookie.
Yeah, Billy Wilder. Yeah. All right, PBS. So we're going to go through a bunch of PBS titles here. Be aware of them. A lot of them are really, really good. Arts in the Mind with Lisa Kudrow. You know what? Lisa Kudrow, I love her to death. She's not really Phoebe from Friends. She's just really sharp. And this is wonderful. This is about the arts, the importance of the arts as a developmental tool for the human mind, for human beings and everything. We always kind of minimize that, right? Everybody wants reading, writing, and arithmetic in schools, and arts is always like the first thing to get cut. And this makes a case that, maybe arts is more important than everything else because of the way that it helps your mind develop. Craft in America. This is an ongoing series from PBS. This one is Crossroads. And this is just sort of looking at some of the areas where the craft history of American culture kind of intertwines with technology in the modern world. Not one of the best ones, but interesting enough. An installment of Nature, Magic of the Snowy Owl. All I could think of while watching this was The Big Year, which I really enjoyed. The movie, Steve Martin, Jack Black.
You're the only one.
I know, I'm the only one that liked that movie. I just watched this. It's a beautiful owl. Every night when I go to sleep, did I mention this? We have owls at the house, and there's a screech owl and there's a hoo owl. And it's like they're fighting for turf. Woo, woo. I don't know if they're communicating, if they're arguing, if they're just bitching each other out, or if it's like a competition between sopranos. I don't know, but it's really kind of disturbing.
All I know is that if anybody from the NRA is listening right now, I know you have a solution to Wade's problem.
Yep, you sure do.
The only solution to every problem.
The solution that...
to every problem in the world.
The solution that Joe Pesci comes up with in My Cousin Vinny when the owl is keeping him awake. But it doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
You remember that, right?
No.
When he comes. It's a great shot. He comes running out of the cabin and with a gun and just bang, 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 and then they rack focus to the owl and right up in front of the lens. It's great. It's a terrific shot. It's wonderful. Tales of the Masked Men. Can't say that I'm a big fan of Mexican wrestling, lucha libre with the funky masks and the whole thing. I don't really know how that ever came to become as popular as it is, and I'm not sure that this really answers why it's as popular as it is, other than the fact that it's a people's sport. But anyway, if you ever had any interest in sort of learning how it came to be and what it the role that it plays in Mexican society and even in American society, it's pretty good. Another installment of Nature, Siberian Tiger Quest. Love kitties. Love great big kitties. And this is also really, really good. This is probably one of the better installments of Nature that I have seen. It's an hour long. People often think tigers roam Africa. They don't. There are no tigers in Africa. Tigers are an Asian animal. And this is looking for the Siberian tiger, and in an area of Russia where I never even necessarily realized there were tigers. I always knew they had them, in Southeast Asia. I knew they had them in India, but didn't realize they went as far as Siberia. So fascinating, really fascinating. We have an installment of Nova Science Now. Can I eat that? And this does not encourage me necessarily. Mark, describe for the people what the cover of this is.
It's a cockroach of some sort.
On
a fork.
That's right. It's a cockroach on a fork. That doesn't necessarily really instill confidence in anyone to want to watch this.
Well, it depends. If you're a Fear Factor watcher, or, by the way, if you live in any Southeast Asian country where all they eat are grasshoppers.
That's not really what this is about. It just sort of gets into the essence of the things we take for granted about food. Why we taste things and why we cook things and how we cook things. And it's interesting. Somebody said to me the other day, cooking is art. But baking is chemistry. Isn't that interesting?
Correct.
And this is very much about the chemistry of it. We never get tired of Cuban Missile Crisis stuff, and from the Secrets of the Dead series is The Man Who Saved the World, which is an hour-long look at the story of Vasily Arkhipov, who you may not realize really was an extraordinary figure in the Cuban Missile Crisis. We talk about Khrushchev and Kennedy and all. No, Arkhipov. Who was he? You need to watch this and find out. Fascinating.
And, by the way, when you're done not watching that, because you never will, go rent 13 Days.
Yeah, 13 Days, great movie.
Yep.
Really underrated Roger Donaldson film.
Yep.
Also from Nova Science Now, What Makes Us Human? A little bit better than the food one. It's not quite so creepy in some respects. No, this is all about the origin of the human species and our genes and our ancient family tree. It's interesting. Java Man is my pal. Surviving Disaster, How the Brain Works Under Extreme Duress. If you've been stressed at any point in your life, this will give you really a lot of solace, because it'll tell you how certain aspects of your brain and your body kick into overdrive when things aren't going well, and somehow give you that extra little boost of adrenaline.
Adrenaline is amazing.
It is.
It works within one millionth of a second after you get excited or have to turn your car or put on your brakes fast. How does it do that, Wade?
I don't know.
You got to watch that documentary and you'll know.
From Nature on Blu-ray and on DVD, and it is gorgeous on Blu-ray, is an original documentary. It's only an hour long, but it's lovely because ducks are adorable and cute. And I didn't learn anything about ducks I didn't already know, but because I've read all the stories, the Ugly Duckling and all that kind of stuff. I know all that. I've watched Donald and Daffy. I know my ducks.
Those, really, when you want to know about ducks, how they function, from an evolutionary standpoint, how they became ducks, the best way is to watch old Donald Duck cartoons.
That's true. And also from Nature, Animal Odd Couples. Somehow I felt like watching this should have been an episode of America's Funniest Home Videos, because it's like, oh look, it's a dog and a cat and they like each other, a cat and a bird and they like each other, and oh look, it's a mouse and an elephant and they like each other. It's cute. It tries to sort of get a little deeper than that, but it never really does. And then the Suicide Plan from Frontline is tremendously illuminating and depressing. This is 90 minutes long, and it is really, if you have any kind of opinion about assisted suicide or about the plight of the elderly or people who are terminally ill, you're going to want to see this, because it raises a lot of important moral and ethical questions, and it forces you to answer them. And I think a lot of times it forces you to take positions you may not want to take. So it's a really, really good Frontline. That's it for those. Mark, you want to hit us with some music, and I'll pile through some of the other docs?
Yes, Wade, I'm a big fan of The Who. I am. I admit it.
I know.
admit it.
I know. You love yourself some of that Daltrey and Pete Townsend action.
Yes, I do. Pete Townsend. Here's the thing. Pete Townsend is my musical god. George Carlin, my comedy god.
Too bad they didn't form a band together. That would have been great.
The Who, live in Texas, 1975. This is at the height of their powers, and they sing a lot of great stuff. All their classics: Substitute, Baba O'Reilly, Boris the Spider, Can't Explain, Squeezebox. They don't play that in concert all the time, so I'm glad it's here in the Who, live in Texas, 79. This is just great stuff. They were young and they were energetic, and they were on the U.S. leg of their tour and support. It was for the Who by Numbers, which is a pretty good album. And, so they sing plenty of stuff from My Generation and Tommy and whatnot. So this is great stuff. It doesn't look great, only because it's 1975, but still, it sounds pretty darn good. Looks pretty darn good. And if you're a Who fan, you're going to want to check out the Who live in Texas, 75. Not a big Lady Antebellum fan. I don't really.
Oh, I do. I like them.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
It's just it's like it's a little bit country, but it's a little bit folk. It's a little bit modern. It's like it gets you through the day, man.
It wants to be everything.
It gets you through the day.
It can't decide on one genre.
It's sort of folksy, feel good Southern stuff. It makes me it
makes
gets
you happy.
It gets you through the day. It's what it is. It's like music of Prozac.
It sounds like more like music schizophrenia. It needs to be treated with some sort of music drug. Well, these guys swept last year's Grammy Awards.
I know,
these guys, and they've sold millions of records. So obviously, I'm in the minority. But this, they are performing. They actually did a whole world tour, and this is part of that world tour. But they have a bunch of number one hits that they do sing here. I Run to You, We Own the Night, American Honey. That's kind of actually American Honey's not so bad. I have to admit.
Nice.
I admit it. Anyway, for the world tour, they toured like 11 countries, but you get some of that here in Lady Antebellum Own the Night World Tour.
Nice.
Twisted Sister, they had a moment.
That's not good. Twisted.
By the way, they're from Long Island, I have to say.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes, and
Dee Snider.
You know who lived on Long Island until he was 10 years old?
You.
Mark Kaiser.
Yeah.
Ba-bam.
Anyway, the Howard Stern's from Long Island too, isn't he?
He's from Roosevelt, Long Island.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Twisted Sister, Twisted Christmas, live in Las Vegas.
This just came, by the way. It's not like I delayed covering this. It literally just came within the past few days.
Well, here's the thing: the DVD is it's a combination of Christmas songs and non-Christmas songs. So I don't. If for some reason it's January and you want to hear Twisted Sister sing "Deck the Halls," and come all you faithful, go nuts. Otherwise, you might want to maybe put this on your list for next Christmas.
Totally. A few other docs here to blow through. Actually, these aren't quite so much docs as they are just sort of travel guides and travelogues. This is from BFS, and I put these things on usually in the background when I'm vacuuming or doing something else because you don't have to pay too close. How could you
hear it when you're vacuuming? If you're vacuuming, how can you
don't have
hear
to pay
that?
too close attention because the pictures are pretty. This is Royal Kingdoms, the castles and cathedrals of Royal Britain, and you don't really need to do anything except watch the lovely photography of all the wonderful castles and cathedrals. And they're great. They're really cool. And then also we got a couple here from Lighthouses of Australia and Lighthouses of Ireland. Now, I don't know why the distinction, because the Lighthouses of Ireland are declared Sentinels of the Sea, and the Lighthouses of Australia are declared Beacons of Hope. I guess I just needed some kind of a subtitle. Anyway, I'm not one of these people who loves lighthouses. There are lighthouse cultists, people who travel the world just to see lighthouses. Now that I have these two, I don't really need to do that. I sort of get the idea. But whatever, it's fine. Knock yourselves out. A lot of pretty lighthouses. And
lighthouses are cool.
It's more about it's really not even about the history. It's just more about the terrain where they are. And there's a lot, the terrain is very varied. The only thing that's common is that they're in places where, it could be treacherous for whatever reason, reefs and rocks and cliffs and whatnot. So, lighthouses, go figure.
Whatever you say, Wade. Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah. Fire away.
Wait, there's a documentary from the good folks at First Run Features. This is a real DIY kind of effort called YURT. Now, YURT is an acronym for Your Environmental Road Trip, which already is annoying. But what it is, it's cute. There are these three guys, and they went on a road trip, and they went on a road trip to kind of meet these people in a whole bunch of states who are innovating in terms of recycling and wind power.
Is that
and
why
kind
it
of
comes
stuff.
in a recyclable envelope that you could slide underneath the door?
That's what.
That's okay.
That is
Got
true.
it.
So these three people they go from state to state for like a year, and they sort of talk to people, and they face these issues that a lot of Americans face in terms of recycling and wind power and solar power, and they meet all these interesting people. If you're into this kind of stuff, you should just fire up a doobie and check it out. I mean, it's not going to be up for an Oscar or anything.
All righty. From First Run Features, we got a couple of interesting ones here. After Kony, Staging Hope is about basically the child soldiers from the northern Uganda war. And, Kony was kind of the center of a brief little burp of publicity with that film, that online film. That Kony 2012.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, which everybody kind of thought was going to be some great humanitarian tool until it turned out that the guy who made it was insane, and then he was running around naked in San Diego or something. Wasn't there some fiasco? And
I love how it comes out and all these celebrities get behind it, and all these people get it, and it turns out that the guy who made it is out of his mind.
He's out of his mind. Anyway, this is a better doc, much better, because it really is about a healing. And look. To be honest, what's going on with Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda is horrible, and it's left scars that are going to continue for a very, very long time, and it's still not over. But this tells you how amazing the people are in Uganda in basically trying to solve the problem and to fight against it, and it's pretty great. It's just all about the people, and you just can't help but love them. And then also we've got Rehearsal for a Sicilian Tragedy, John Turturro. I got to tell you, man, John Turturro he's just emerged as this kind of fascinating doc guy, and whether he's in them or whether he directs them, this is kind of like his new calling, and I'm really very impressed with the direction that he's taken. So anyway, this is basically about the puppetry of the Sicilian people and the history of puppetry, and of course Turturro's docs are all very much rooted in his own family history, and he has a real connection to the history of Sicilian puppetry. It's wonderful. And then lastly of this little batch here, and I'll let you talk about that. The Katsi trilogy on Blu-ray from Criterion.
You
know what?
Is good.
This is Koyaanisqatsi, Powakatsi, and Nakoikatsi. And these are all the Godfrey Reggio films that are all shot in beautiful time-lapse, and they just go on forever, and at least they feel like they go on forever. And, it's gorgeous, and there's great, fabulously monotonous Philip Glass music and whatever. I never really got into it. I saw Koyaanisqatsi when it came out with my mother, and she said that was boring. And, of course, me being the nascent film nerd, I sort of was like, it looked cool. And, of course, over time, I was like, you know what? I was bored, too. Lots of stuff here, though. I'm not a fan. They look gorgeous. They were shot, Koyaanisqatsi was legendary at the time when Ron Fricke shot it, and Ron Fricke's gone on to shoot all of his own stuff since, including the recent Samsara, which was shot in '65. So, I mean, it's this is gorgeous photography, and you get you get interviews with Reggio and interviews with Ron Fricke and interviews with Philip Glass and documentaries and public television interviews and just on and on and on. I mean, the amount of material on here in terms of the extras is just overwhelming. So if you love these films, there's no better way to watch them. This is a great Blu-ray set, contains all three of them, beautiful, but not my kinds of movies.
Wait, for you comic book fans out there, and I know you exist, there is a new Blu-ray edition of Comic Book Confidential. Now, Comic Book Confidential is a great documentary from 1988, and it's great. It profiles all these great comic book artists like Robert Crumb and Stan Lee, and it sort of legitimizes comic books in the eyes of those who think that it's just a bunch of frivolous nothing. Which, by the way, can be, but it's also can be art just like any other art. In fact, there's a great extra on here. Actually, it's in the documentary. There's clips from the 1950s congressional hearings that tried to link comic books with like juvenile delinquency.
Oh yeah,
and it was just ridiculous. And you just see how the government needs to stay out of all artistic endeavors of all kinds. But this was especially egregious. But Comic Book Confidential, it's like a 20th anniversary edition. It's great. For this new version, which is a real slam dunk, they did a good job on this. They've got 40 minutes of never before seen footage. There's also new stuff from Kevin Smith, and there's an interview with the director, Ron Mann, and it's great. It's great. You know, there's a creepy moment in the film where they're talking about Zippy the Pinhead. Bill Griffith's Zippy the Pinhead.
Yeah.
And they have a guy dressed up as Zippy the Pinhead, like running around yelling these like Zippy phrases. That's a little strange. So sometimes man does get a little bit out of his mind. But otherwise, Comic Book Confidential is great. It's a great history of the comic book form. It'll finally make you, if you didn't already, respect the people who draw these comics and who write these comics and how great they are and how Stan Lee was just as revolutionary as any other movie director or TV writer at the time. You'll appreciate, Wade, comic books from watching Comic Book Confidential on Blu-ray.
All right. I'll take your word for it. And then to wrap up the doc form here real quickly, Five Broken Cameras is out from Kino Lorber this week. It is the same week that it just got nominated for an Oscar, which I think was kind of a surprise to a lot of people. Did you expect this to get nominated?
Not at all.
I didn't either.
Off my radar.
It was totally off my radar as well. We were supplied a screener of this, but this was like even in our voting, in the LA Film Critic voting, not even on the radar. Like no one was voting for this. Basically, this is one of two films nominated for documentary this year that deal with the Israeli-Palestinian crisis. The Gatekeepers, which we gave the award to,
which is great,
way better.
Oh yeah.
All this is basically just kind of a chronicle of events in this one village in the West Bank, which is all shot by a guy who's not a filmmaker, by the way. He's just a farmer. And he sets up these cameras knowing basically that they're going to be destroyed, each one of them. So it's a chronicle more than a film. I guess they thought it was an important statement movie, but I don't know that it really deserves to be nominated. Music from the Big House is awesome. This is absolutely awesome. Shot at Angola prison and all in gorgeous black and white. I talked about this on the radio when it came out, and I just love this movie even more. Directed by Bruce McDonald. This is just essentially about taking prisoners and turning them into musicians, letting them find their musical voice while in prison, and
let them take that clarinet and make a shiv out of it.
You know what? You realize that there's these guys. They're human beings too, and a lot of them, even though they're never going to get out of prison, or certainly not for a long, long time, there is a certain sense of redemption here, and it has that kind of a Johnny Cash feel to it, and I really appreciated that. I thought it was really good. 3 stars. Just wrapping up quickly here so that we can get on to regular movies that Mark will appreciate.
And cookies that you will appreciate.
And this is why I'm mentioning 3 stars, because it's about cooking. It's about 3 stars. If you get 3 stars for your Michelin restaurant, you ever eaten at a 3-star Michelin restaurant?
Oh, God, no. That's like $500 a plate.
Not if you go for the lunch buffet.
Can you imagine?
Which
a 3-star lunch. Do any of these Michelin restaurants have like a buffet?
Well, actually, not a buffet, but literally last year, exactly a year ago, Christy and I went to a place in Paris that's a 3-star Michelin restaurant, and we couldn't afford to go for dinner because it's ridiculous.
I know where you went.
Where?
Well, you know what? I have eaten at Guy Savoy.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Well, there's a Guy Savoy in Vegas.
Yeah.
It was like $350 for a meal, which I had to eat at the bar because you can't get a reservation.
Right.
And I was freaking alone by myself because my buddies can't spend $350 on a dinner.
Yeah.
But I wanted to because it was a Michelin restaurant,
right.
And it was supposed to be one of the best in the world, and it was great.
Well, the one we went to, it's all vegetarian, and it's all grown in his own little like garden patch outside of Paris.
Such a dud.
And it was so good.
No,
it was unbelievable.
Lame.
It was just every little thing was a work of art. And you go, what is that? Well, that's like a puree of cucumber mixed with a tofu. And you're just like, oh my gosh, do I eat it or do I frame it? It was amazing. It was wonderful. And it wasn't that bad, really. For both of us, it wound up being like $250 for lunch at a 3-star Michelin restaurant.
That's pretty good.
And
that was, where was that?
That was in Paris.
Oh, in Paris.
In Paris. Just absolutely wonderful. And, a lot of people are like, oh, $250. Look, no drinks. I'm sorry. That's not bad. Anyway, so that's what this is all about. This is about, these chefs, these 3-star chefs. Terrific. Really, really good. A lot of fun. And then lastly, Queen of Versailles and Ai Weiwei, Never Sorry. These are both on Blu-ray. Totally different docs. Both of them probably deserve to be nominated this year along with The Imposter. None of them were. Because I guess they're not politically relevant enough. Queen of Versailles is about this woman who, with her husband, who's,
He's the timeshare king.
He is the guy who he's just the
he's the most successful timeshare operator in the world.
And it's all about basically this. They never knew that they'd have this documentary because they were building a replicate of the Versailles Palace with all of his giant gobs of money. And these people are really kind of blue-collary. I mean, they are like white trash with billions of dollars.
He was in the middle of building the biggest private home in the world.
And his business collapsed. It was like the 2008. I mean, they were shooting this doc basically just about the house. They didn't know that they'd be capturing the collapse of an empire. And anyway, these people are just hysterical. Like they should be like some kind of an A&E reality show. These two, but because they make Snooki look normal, really.
Well, the great thing that these directors do, and it reminds us very much of our friend Andrew Curtis's Lost in La Mancha,
absolutely,
which is that the directors go into it thinking that they're going to capture one story,
and they wind up basically shifting gears when everything goes haywire, and they capture a catastrophe.
Yes,
and it makes for a better movie. That's being a good documentarian. So anyway, the film kind of ends on a question mark, and there was a lawsuit, and they sued the filmmakers for depicting them badly and suggesting that and apparently he's turned it around and he hasn't had to sell the place, but it's still not finished.
Well, they need to come up with a new home video only version
with
that
a tag.
Us. Yeah, updates us.
Well, there is some updating on it, but it's an ongoing story, so we'll have to wait till next year. Ai Weiwei Never Sorry is about the amazing Chinese dissident artist Ai Weiwei, and it is a warts and all look at him. And this guy, he's a real icon to a lot of people. He's a little bit pretentious, but he's outspoken and he's rude and he loves to flip off the camera. That's his famous thing. And he's heavily into social media. Do you know how? I mean, he tweets like every second. It's unbelievable. He is just all about it.
Frank Sinatra wrote a song about him. I did it Ai Weiwei's way.
Yeah.
I did it Ai Weiwei's way.
Well, anyway, he is awfully cool. His art is aggressive and thoughtful, and the installments are huge and sometimes small. And he's a fascinating guy. You get a commentary and some deleted scenes. It's very nicely transferred to Blu-ray. Not exactly a film I would expect to look good on Blu-ray per se, but this was a Sundance winner, deservedly so. Should have been nominated for an Oscar. Is not. So go figure. Mark, feed me.
Well, before I feed you, I will give you the background of the feeding.
Okay.
There was a documentary in last year, actually, called El Bulli, Cooking in Progress. Now, El Bulli is a restaurant that is now closed, and it is just a little off of Barcelona. And it is the type of restaurant that is so unbelievably exclusive that it only opens 6 months out of the year. You make the reservation a year in advance. And the guy who runs the restaurant, the main chef, he is famous for creating dishes that are very, very odd. And the meals are like 30-course meals. But when you say 30-course meals, every course isn't like, short ribs. Some of the courses are very unusual. Like he'll have like glow-in-the-dark lollipops with the glow coming from like fish proteins. And he'll have a course made out of like smoke or something. It's all just bizarre gobs of just chemistry and strangeness. Right. Well, I bought this guy's cookbook as if I could really cook like he does.
Yeah.
Now he has a cookbook, this El Bulli guy, and it's not all the recipes are complicated, but it's a little imposing. So I made the one recipe I could make that only has 3 ingredients. All it has is ground almonds, egg whites, and sugar. That's all it has.
You know what I think is interesting about ground almonds? Because most almonds actually grow on plants, but it's the ones that grow out of the ground. It's like, where do they come from? Hello?
That's your second clunker of the day.
I'm sorry.
All right. Okay. So here's the thing. So basically, you make these out of ground almonds, egg whites, and sugar, and it's sort of a crunchy meringue almond cookie. I tried one. Didn't like it.
Okay.
Tried 2 because it yields like 35 of these things. I tried 2, liked it more. Tried 3, I was addicted. I ate them like candy.
All right.
So you can't just have 1. You have to have 2 so that the addiction takes place.
All right.
And by the way, I only have 3 left.
Okay.
Hang on.
Hit me with one of these. What are the Ai Weiwei cookies? No. They're based on a movie.
No, this is a. He calls it an almond cookie, but it tastes like a crunchy meringue almond cookie. Now, what am I talking about while you eat this?
You know what? Here.
Oh, just eat the stupid cookie.
Talk about
Frankenweenie. Frankenweenie is nominated for a Best Animated Film Oscar. And, I did like this film, and I'm a little over Tim Burton right now. I think that he has... Yes. That nobody wants to hear that. You'd be surprised. That actually nobody wants to hear people chewing on radio or television or film. So you can have one, you'd be like... Here's the thing. You're eating one, and you're like, I don't like this.
It's crunchy, kind of styrofoamy.
It is, right? Yeah. Then you'll have another one. You'll eat one more. Eat one more.
All right.
And you eat one more, and you'll be like, you know what? I think I like this. It's weird. It'll become an obsession after one more cookie. No one wants to hear you chewing.
So I need a second date, is what you're saying?
No, you need a second cookie.
Okay.
And then when you eat the second cookie, you'll be like...
I love these containers, by the way.
Thank you. When you eat a second cookie, you'll be like, oh my God, I get it. These are growing on me. And then you'll eat the third and last one I have. Anyway, Frankenweenie, but it's a return to form for Tim Burton. I like it. He's going back to... he's redoing a film that he had made years earlier as a student. And he's giving it the
feature. It's not animated, by the way.
Huh?
The original is not animated.
That is correct.
Film live action.
That is correct, Almond Cookie Johnny. Mm-hmm. So now he is redoing the film feature length and animating it, and I have to say it's kind of a return to form for him. I liked it. I think that it sort of becomes less interesting as it goes along, just because it sort of has like a typical action kind of ending. But after shanking Dark Shadows, and after shanking Willy Wonka, and after shanking Planet of the Apes, it's nice to see Tim Burton. You feel like he's a bit more energized. The voice acting is good. The script is clever. I think Frankenweenie is actually not that bad. I kind of liked it.
I agree completely.
Now, hang on a second, Wade.
Yeah.
Are these growing on you or not?
Yeah, a little bit.
See? Yeah. I'm going to give you the. I'm going to give you the last one.
All right, fine.
And you can eat the last one. You'll be like, oh my God, I will love these. Make more. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I tend to like my cookies, cushier, softer, not quite so crunchy and kind of foamy. But whatever.
It's like crunchy meringue.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Thank you. Before I take a bite into this cookie, we have a DVD this week, not on Blu-ray. The other new movies are all on Blu-ray. This is Michael Winterbottom's Trishna, which has just totally been shut out of the whole award season thing. And rather unfairly so. I think mainly because IFC Films just does not even remotely do a decent job of promoting their stuff for awards. It's like they don't care. You ever notice that? IFC just they don't give a damn during award season.
Somehow they don't think that awards recognition translates into home video sales?
It's sad. I don't know. It's sad. But anyway, this is from IFC Films. And Michael Winterbottom has, he's just such a talented director. It blows my mind how good he is and how no one's paying attention to his movies anymore. He basically took a Slumdog Millionaire actress Frida Pinto and made an Indian version of Tess of the Durbanvilles, which we all know mainly from the Polanski film. And it's always interesting when people do this with Shakespeare and other things. Usually they do it with Jane Austen, right? How many different contexts have we plugged Pride and Prejudice into? And even an Indian version with Bride and Prejudice, right? But Tess is an interesting story that almost plugs into the Indian culture better than it does into, period British culture. Really just fascinating way of looking at this story in a different cultural context. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Not everybody's a big fan of Thomas Hardy novels. Like our friend Andy Klein hates everything that Thomas Hardy ever wrote. So Andy wouldn't necessarily like it, but I thought it was absolutely wonderful. And the way that it looks at the caste system of India and classes, it's gorgeously photographed. I wish it were on Blu-ray. IFC, get on that. Trishna is a really underrated film that should have been given its due at the end of 2012. Wasn't. So let's hope we can get some justice there. But by all means, fire away.
Yeah, we're both eating.
Yeah.
Please hold.
Uh-huh. You took a long time to have a bite.
By the end of that third cookie, you'll be obsessed. You'll be like, God, make some more. Looper is on... actually, Looper's been out on Blu-ray. We're finally getting it now. And it's great. Sometimes you see a science fiction film. I felt the same way about... what was the Duncan Jones thing? The second Duncan Jones thing.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah,
he
right.
goes back in time, whatever, time, Blimmins.
17 seconds or whatever
exactly.
the hell it's called, yeah.
You see a film like that, and Looper's the same, where they take something that, by all rights, should be a total programmer, button pusher, same old, and makes it great. And this is just a total testament to the director, Rian Johnson. And he's great. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in it. Bruce Willis is in it.
Source Code.
Source Code.
Worst title ever, by the way, Source Code. Like, who the hell's going to remember that?
And anyway, so Joey Gordon-Levitt. He's I kind of don't want to. You probably already saw it, but I'm not going to tell you anyway. Bruce Willis, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, time travel, 2044, 2011. It's great. You got to see it. Rent it. Buy it. We'll definitely rent it. There's some bunch of special features, including a commentary with the director and Emily Blunt and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. There's some deleted scenes. There's some Blu-ray exclusives too. Which the Blu-ray has 17 extra deleted scenes, which is like way too much. But still, it's a really cool movie. It's got a lot of style, and it just takes a stale premise that would have been stale by any other measure, by any other director, makes it totally fresh.
I agree. To Rome with Love, Woody Allen's latest European opus. And he's back in New York now, by the way. His new film is a New York film again.
Good, because this movie sucks.
You didn't like To Rome with Love?
No.
Why? Come on, it's Woody Allen directing Benigni. That's like priceless.
You love Benigni. Benigni is annoying.
But Benigni can be annoying, but he's good here, and I thought Alec Baldwin was good here, and Penelope Cruz is good here. Give me a break; they're all good. Jesse Eisenberg, I don't particularly care for. I don't think this is like one of Woody's best films, but I thought it was perfectly amiable. I enjoyed it. It's fine. I mean, is it a little bit of a letdown after Midnight in Paris? Yes, of course it is. This is kind of like one of his also-ran movies, and he of course is in it again, which sometimes is a mistake more often than not these days. I kind of want him to not be in his movies so much, but I thought this was perfectly amiable. You didn't?
Maybe it's a function of coming off of Midnight in Paris. It just seemed a little slack.
Yeah, a little bit.
It didn't have the snap of the writing. Sometimes Woody's writing can be very... You can almost feel the cadences, the formulaicness of his writing sometimes.
True. And you definitely feel that here. Yeah, I feel like this is a middling Woody Allen movie. Absolutely.
But you know what? The thing is that there's too many of those now. When you do a movie a year and you've been active for 40 years, there's too many middling Woody Allen films out there.
That's very true. That is very, very true. Compliance is a film I suspect Mark and I are going to disagree on. I think you liked this, didn't you?
I don't know that I liked it as filmmaking, but I liked it as an idea, as a filmed thesis.
Yes, I don't. Magnolia's Blu-ray of Compliance is here in my hands, loaded with all kinds of just great pull quotes from people who love this movie. Now, here's my thing. First of all, this movie doesn't really absolutely gain anything at all from Blu-ray. It doesn't gain much from DVD. It's not terribly well shot. I don't think it's terribly well made. It is well acted, however. Craig Zobel, who wrote and directed it, based this on apparently an actual incident where a prank caller talked these people into basically believing that he was a law enforcement officer and talked them into all kinds of horrible sexual molestations and assaults under the guise of having someone searched, et cetera, et cetera. We think this woman has stolen something, and that's basically what this is about. I want you to strip her, do a cavity search. And the longer this movie goes on, the more I was thinking, okay, this would have been a great 10-minute short film. This might even have been a 20-minute short film. But as this drags on, all I can think of is, and I don't care if it's based on a real incident, these are the stupidest people in the world, and every single one of them should just be locked up for being so unbelievably stupid and naive. Well, it's intolerable.
And
it's not interesting at that point. You just want to hit them.
That's the beauty of the casting of Ann Dowd, which is that you get a feeling that she's kind of dim. And the whole movie is about how much are you willing to cede your sense of
justice
because there might be somebody of authority telling you what to do. I mean, really, it just broadens out into even that. We do what the police says because we just assume that they're the police. We do what our bosses say because they're the boss. What our parents say because they're our parents. But how willing are we to just cede authority to others? And this prank. And by the way, that the only thing I did not like about this movie at all is that thing he did at the end. At the end of the film, there's a title card. I'm being vague. There's a title card.
Yes, there is.
The title card has words on it, and you're like, you just brought me back down to earth. I mean, what was the point of that? I was so absorbed in the story, and now you've just did that? I'm being so vague.
It's a problem. It's a problem. I just don't like the movie at all. It upset me. Is it well made? Well, it's well acted. Other than that, it's shot too close, and I just felt like it was one of those typical Sundancey movies. So whatever.
Wage your ignorant slut.
I know, totally. So, Mark, let's finish off the regular movies with that that last. Yeah, let's finish that off, and then I'll get us started on the classic stuff.
Oh, wait, won't back down from earlier, I guess last year. I was about to say earlier this year, but it's 2013. It's not fair. This is one of those, it's not an activist movie, but, it's one of those movies where, parents try to, improve the education of their kids, and they're just really crusading parents, and we all love crusading parents. Oh. So it's Maggie Gyllenhaal, Viola Davis, and Holly Hunter. And, I would probably recommend this for women only. If you're a guy.
One of those movies.
Or if you're childless.
Okay.
I don't really see any point in this. Although, look, not that it doesn't bring up interesting questions about the public education system or what some would consider a public education crisis.
Kind of a polemic, though.
It is very much of a polemic. And the thing is that when you go, it's very tough when you back into the themes of your movie. Like if you say, I'm going to make a movie about the public education crisis. Now you're backing into what really matters, which is story and character. If you write a movie with great stories and character, then those themes will just sort of come out naturally. So they come out and try to make a polemic, and then in the end they make a film that just becomes just dry and boring.
Lame. All right. Kino sent us 2 fantastic Blu-ray box sets that I wish had come in earlier because they would definitely have been right at the top of the holiday gift coverage. But unfortunately, they did not, so we are going to make them high recommendations for January. One is the David O. Selznick collection, and this is all just perfectly brilliant David O. Selznick stuff. There's no ringer. There's no stringer in this. We always talk about box sets. Which one doesn't belong? Nothing. They all belong. And these are all from the actual George Eastman House collection that came originally from Selznick's own estate. So this is not public domain stuff, which Kino never releases. You get and all of this has been released previously, by the way. It's just a box set of great Blu-rays. But if you don't want to have to go and pick them up separately, get them all together here. So we included here is Nothing Sacred with Carol Lombard and Frederick March. The original Janet Gaynor, Frederick March, Star is Born. A Farewell to Arms with Gary Cooper and Helen Hayes. Mickey Rooney in Little Lord Fauntleroy. There's the biggest star in the world. Love it when Dana Carvey would do that. And then Dolores Del Rio and Joel McRae in Bird of Paradise, which is just so beautifully shot. Bird of Paradise, one of the great all-time cinematography achievements.
But here's the movies that obviously... Now, here's the thing. Selznick is one of the only producers you know by name.
Auteur producer, yes. There are very few auteur producers. Selznick being one of them. You could certainly make a case that David Putnam was for a period as well, but yes.
The 2 films that are not in this collection, not that they ever
Rebecca
would be,
and Gone with the Wind.
Would be Rebecca and Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Now, Rebecca is won Best Picture, I think, in 1940, something like that.
Yes.
And that was Alfred Hitchcock.
The year after Gone with the Wind.
The year after Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, the year after Gone with the Wind.
So anyway, Selznick is great, and those films again. He did a lot of films, Selznick, and those aren't all of them.
Nope.
They're not even his best, but they're all very good.
Buster Keaton is what the movies are all about. I love my Chaplin, but Buster Keaton, in terms of being not just a screen presence, but also a filmmaker. Chaplin, brilliant. I take nothing away from Chaplin. But Buster Keaton, you look at his movies, there is a technical sophistication that is still very modern. And this is the complete Buster Keaton collection, 14 discs on Blu-ray from Kino.
Good.
I'm telling you.
Crap.
Huh?
This is Blu-ray.
It's Blu-ray.
I want this.
And we almost weren't going to get this, by the way. There were limited copies, and I had to wait and see if we could slum it a little bit at the bottom of the list. And they had extras, so
this is great.
I know, get my Buster Keaton on Blu-ray.
You're not going to give me this. Right?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I had to really, really work very hard with the people at Kino to make sure that we earned their grace.
Well, I'm going to say bad things about it because they wouldn't give me one.
You know what? Look, Buster. I mean, we can't even go into the history of Buster Keaton. Just know that if you get one
That's
Buster Keaton film, you got to get them all because you're just going to want to sit there for days and days and days and watch Buster Keaton over and over and over. And the transfers for Blu-ray are so gorgeous. They're so pristine. They're better, in fact, than any of the Blu-ray transfers I've seen for Chaplin films, including those on Criterion, I would admit.
Buster Keaton. Hey, look, get back.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Look.
I know.
Short films. It has the Saphead, Three Ages, Our Hospitality, Sherlock Jr., The Navigator, Seven Chances, Go West, Battling Butler, The General, folks, one of the all-time great films.
Yep.
College, which is pretty funny. I mean, for an older film, it's funny stuff. Steamboat Bill Jr. and Lost Keaton, which is some recently unearthed. Not recently, but sort of recently unearthed Keaton stuff.
It's great. It's
Yep,
just fantastic.
What's
Absolutely
it called?
awesome.
Buster Keaton Collection.
Buster Keaton Collection on Blu-ray from Kino's.
Kino, send
14
me
discs.
one.
14 freaking discs.
I want one. Send me one, Kino, please, Mr. Kino.
I'll see what I can do.
Now wait, no, you say that.
Best picture
nothing
time.
ever happens.
Best picture time.
Well, here's the thing. We talk now. Now that there's upwards of 10 Best Picture nominees, right?
Yes.
It is very possible, more possible than ever, that a film will win Best Picture without its director being nominated.
Yeah, and this year it may very well happen again. It only happened once before in '89 with that movie.
Driving Miss Daisy.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, when Driving Miss Daisy was nominated for Best Picture, Bruce Beresford was not nominated for Best Director.
Which is why everyone thought that
the film's chances were written off.
They were written off. Everyone honestly thought that Born on the 4th of July was going to win everything. And as soon as Oliver Stone won Best Director for Born on the 4th of July, they're like, all right, it's Born on the 4th of July. And then Best Picture came around. And I kid you not, Christy was saying to me at the time, she's like, don't believe it. It's going to be Driving Miss Daisy. I said, it's not possible. Bruce Beresford wasn't nominated. You can't win Best Picture if your director isn't nominated. And the winner is Driving Miss Daisy. And I had egg on my face. It just, no one saw that coming except for, I would say, my wife, who was then not my wife, but that's why I married her, because she predicted this.
Because she knew that the aging members of the Academy, who were even older then than they are now, by average age, would like that over some movie that, hey, it's the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Anyway, Driving Miss Daisy is a terrific film, and if you've just heard of it through your parents or heard of it through just reading articles about it or whatever, because it's part of Oscar history, don't discount it. You should definitely rent it, if not buy it. It's great. It's a great film. Morgan Freeman is great in it. Jessica Tandy, Dan Aykroyd, and it one of Dan Aykroyd's first dramatic roles.
Yeah,
one of his first dramatic roles. Yeah. It's also won a bunch of Golden Globes, and it's great. It's a great film.
By the way, let me just point out to you, Driving Miss Daisy is as old to us now as Gone with the Wind, as Sound of Music was when Driving Miss Daisy came out.
Sometimes you say things like that, and I can't do that math. I don't know what that means. By the way, here's the thing. Driving Miss Daisy, which is about a black chauffeur and the elderly white woman that he chauffeurs around in the South. It also features one of the first decent, non-thumpity-thump militaristic scores by Hans Zimmer.
That's true.
It's a great Hans Zimmer score.
That's very true.
And he rarely writes scores like that. And it's good stuff.
Another two Best Picture winners here, also from Warner Brothers, and you got to get these on Blu-ray. You got to get them because they're brilliant. Mrs. Miniver, William Wyler's amazing World War II tale. And this stars Walter Pidgeon and Greer Garson, and they are wonderful. The movie is absolutely fantastic. It won 6 Academy Awards. It was made and released during the war, 1942. And it's all about the Battle of Britain, but it's not about the dogfights between the fighter planes over Britain. It's about people. And it's the British people and their just stern resolve, and it's wonderful. It's such a beautiful movie. It will bring you to tears. And when you look at this movie, when you look at Mrs. Miniver, and then you flash forward a few years to 46 when William Wyler made The Best Years of Our Lives, I'm one of those people that thinks these two movies should be taken together, that they're really companion films, and that they represent William Wyler's, dual look at the two sides of the ocean and the two fronts of the war, before the war and after the war and during the war, and the resolve of people, Americans and Britons. I think it's just absolutely a wonderful movie. The other one is the original portmanteau film, the original interlocking story film, long before movies like Magnolia and all of its ilk, was Grand Hotel. Grand Hotel, by the way, it was the first film to win Best Picture and not be nominated for anything else. That was it. I mean, this is in the very, very early days of the Academy, and it was sort of when they didn't have quite the nomination and the voting process sorted out to the same degree that we do now. It was barely the beginnings of the sound era, 1931-32. But isn't that weird? It was the only nomination this film got was Best Picture, and it won.
You know what's even weirder?
Huh.
The word portmanteau.
It means overcoat. Yeah.
It's a word that somehow doesn't mean what you think it means.
I know. Well, it's all these interlocking stories.
I bet you can't name another portmanteau word. A portmanteau is a word that is made. Well, I mean, it's the original is a word that is made from by combining two words.
Yeah.
I actually have a. Actually, you know what? I have a list of them.
Oh dear.
Because every time I hear the word portmanteau, I get annoyed. Because it sounds like, it's probably some artistic, like Renaissance era portmanteau.
Yeah, okay.
No. Blaxploitation is a portmanteau.
Okay.
Is a combination of black and exploitation.
Okay.
Bromance, that's a more recent portmanteau.
Very good.
Brother and romance. I'm just saying. portmanteau.
Well, anyway, this is all these different
You're like,
stories.
why did Mark talk about
all these different stories interlocking in a single hotel. It's very nicely done, very well put together. Beautiful directing job by Edmund Goulding, who really didn't go on to do much else of extreme significance. And one of the actresses in this, I should point out, is the lovely Jean Hersholt, whose name is borne by the Humanitarian Award that the Academy gives out now. So this is really quite terrific. It includes a very, very good commentary by Jeffrey Vance and Mark Vieira, a making-of documentary, newsreel, Vitaphone musical short, and trailers for this film and its remake. It's really it's a wonderful piece of movie history. You got to check it out. Absolutely.
Are we talking about this one?
You know what? Before you get to that, let me talk about this, because this came out a number of weeks ago.
Aw.
Didn't get it until now, so I want to catch up on this because I love this movie. I congratulate Steven Spielberg for all of his nominations for Lincoln. I do. I really do. I don't love the film that much, but the movie of Spielberg's that I still think is one of his best, which totally got shafted at the Oscars, is Empire of the Sun.
I agree. It's
love
great.
Empire of the Sun.
Yep, it's
I
great.
love this movie. I think Spielberg's direction is exquisite. I think the young Christian Bale, the man who would be Batman, is in his first big movie role as a little kid. He's awesome. He's just an amazing young actor. And I got to tell you, what really makes this movie hum for me is Tom Stoppard's screenplay. Tom Stoppard wrote one hell of a script for this based on the novel. And there's a really interesting history of Empire of the Sun, because at one point David Lean wanted to make this movie, and there are a lot of movies that Lean wanted to make that Spielberg wound up making, and this is one of them. And it's just whether or not Lean would have ever even wanted to go and make this movie the way that Spielberg made it, who knows? But it's a lovely movie, and I think it's right. It's right up there with Bridge on the River Kwai for me. For that kind of a film.
Really?
It's right up there.
Now that's not Lawrence of Arabia high praise.
No, it's
that's
not.
high praise.
It's high praise.
It is.
This is a gorgeous Blu-ray book from Warner Brothers, and it includes 2 discs. On the first one is obviously an amazing transfer of the movie. It is just such a gorgeous transfer. I can't believe it. And along with the documentary, The China Odyssey, which aired on television, by the way, around the time the film was released. I've seen it many times, never gets old. The only thing about it that's upsetting is when they have one shot at getting a shot of Christian Bale in this explosion in the background, and Bale blows the performance, and they have to kind of do a retake, and you can see it in the film afterwards. You're like, oh, they had to shoot that separately. They couldn't get the shot because he blew it. And Spielberg is just trying not to get pissed off at Bale. He's just trying to go, oh, we lost it with the hands and the gestures. And Bale is just so disappointed with himself because he knows he blew their one and only chance to get the explosion shot.
And somehow, 30 years later, he would yell at some lighting technician on Terminator 3 or something.
Very true. And then the second disc is devoted to Warner at War, which is an amazing documentary about narrated by Spielberg about Warner Brothers' efforts during wartime. So anyway, got to get it. Blu-ray book of Empire of the Sun. Rock on.
Yeah, Wade. What would you like to talk about now?
You tell us about Baron Blood, for crying out loud.
I love Baron Blood. Yeah. Baron Blood is from 1972. Baron Blood is one of those it's kind of like an Italian giallo-y kind of thing by Mario Bava. And the movie, for some strange reason, stars Joseph Cotten. Now, Joseph Cotten, by the way, Citizen Kane Joseph Cotten. This is not the Citizen Kane Joseph Cotten. This is the 1972 Joseph Cotten. And the movie is just ridiculous. It's about this guy who he returns to Austria to find his family or whatever it is, and he visits this castle, and the castle's run by this baron who was cursed to die by a witch. And then when this young guy reads aloud the incantation, Baron Blood returns to continue killing people. It's Baron Blood.
Mario Bava just drives me nuts.
I don't like any of this giallo-y stuff. I don't like Mario Bava. I really don't like the other one. The big dog.
Dario
Argento.
Yeah.
Although you know what, Kino always does a great job with their stuff, so you really can't blame. First of all, this film is not historically unimportant. I mean, it's a noted film of that genre. So it's totally worth coming out on Blu-ray, and there's great special features on it. There's an alternative title sequence, which is kind of cool. There's a trailer, which is always kind of fun. Those vintage trailers from like the 70s are always fun to watch. And so it's good stuff, but it is Baron Blood, and it is kind of ridiculous. And it does feature Elke Summer. Now, Elke Summer, if you're of a certain age, Elke Summer back in the day, she was a serious sex pot. By the way, even the word sex pot probably ages me.
Speaking of giallo-y kind of stuff, we also have, which I feel obligated to mention just because of the way that they actually packaged it. I have to applaud them for this. From 1970, Mark of the Devil. And the way this is packaged, they shrink wrap the DVD with a barf bag, or what do they call them in the airline industry? An air sickness bag?
Air sickness bag.
An air sickness bag. And printed on it, this is shrink wrapped right on top of the DVD. And it says, "This vomit bag will ready you to endure Mark of the Devil." You know what? This is just great marketing. I got to tell you, this is great marketing.
Well, because no one's ever heard of Mark of the Devil.
No.
And if you see Mark of the Devil on the store shelves, you're going to pass over it. But if you see a vomit bag, you'll take a look.
Exactly. Well, this is one of these kind of medieval, is sort of an American giallo film based on, witch trials, and it's just an excuse for a lot of torture porn, basically, from 1970, directed by a guy named Michael Armstrong, who I'd never heard of. Hope I never hear of him again. The only thing that's really significant about this is who's in it, which is basically Herbert Lom and Udo Kier. And, Herbert Lom is just a great cheesy old actor, and Udo Kier, we love Udo. I mean, come on. We made a movie with Udo.
I think here's the thing. Udo Kier, Seymour Cassel, like, who are the old-time just nut job actors? Udo Kier, Seymour Cassel, Klaus Kinski.
Yeah.
Like, they should all get together and do some film where they all just, like, literally, like, kill themselves at the end. Like, literally, as people kill themselves at the end.
The Man Who Knew Too Much, the original incarnation of this film from 1934 by Hitchcock, is also out in a Blu-ray from Criterion. And I don't think this is even remotely as cool as the more recent one with Jimmy Stewart, but it's interesting to see them both back to back, which I did actually in school. I remember in my Hitchcock class at UCLA, they showed us both films back to back, and it's really interesting to compare them, to compare the evolution of Hitchcock's style, how they changed the story. Again, not nearly as good as the remake, but really worth watching. Very nicely done, and it's. It got some great extras, too. This thing on here, the Illustrated Hitchcock, which is a 1972 interview with Hitchcock, audio excerpts from Truffaut's interviews in 1962 with Hitchcock, and there's a great interview with Guillermo del Toro, of all people. The extras here make it worthwhile. If you're a Hitchcock completist, you'll definitely want to get it. If you aren't really into Hitchcock, this is probably not high on your list.
By the way, speaking of Criterion, there's a big Criterion release next month.
Yes, there
time.
is.
What is it, Wade? Marlon Brando, go.
On the Waterfront.
Yes, On the Waterfront, coming out on Criterion Blu-ray next month. That's big times, folks.
Yep.
Save up your shekels. And
we have got some Facets films here that I want to make mention of. This is from 1991. This is a film that probably went under a lot of people's radar, but Facets always digs up some really interesting stuff. Black and White, which is actually a Russian film directed by Boris Fruman. And this is one of those movies that just never, ever would have made it to theaters in the 90s. In the 80s, in the 70s, maybe. But by 1991, it was increasingly impossible for this to happen. And ironically, this takes place basically in this is all in English. It's a Russian-made film, but it takes place in New York. And it's about an interracial relationship. A young black American and a young Russian immigrant, and it's really just a very, very simple relationship movie, a little bit like The Marriage of Maria Braun in some respects. And I think it's a sharp little movie that should have gotten more recognition in 1991 when it came out. And then we also have a couple of movies from 1977 and kind of the 1980 time frame from the Austrian feminist filmmaker Valley Export. That's spelled V-A-L-I-E. Not like she's being exported from the valley, but that's actually a Germanic name, I guess. The 1977 film is Invisible Adversaries, and the 1980 film Menschenfrauen, which means like women, or stern women who have manly attributes or whatever. I'm not terribly familiar with the films of Valley Export, so I can only go based on these films. But again, there's sort of a, as we mentioned with Marriage of Maria Braun in Black and White, there's kind of a Fassbinderian quality to these movies, as if it's sort of like the way that Fassbinder approached things from his male perspective. Certainly a bisexual male perspective. I get the sense that there's certainly a very feminist, possibly even a bisexual feminist mindset going on with Valley Export as well. And this one, Invisible Adversaries, is particularly disturbing, maybe even a little bit of Polanski in here as well. It's about a woman who basically has been given up in her relationship, and it's the instability of her psyche and where that goes. It feels, again, like Fassbinder and Polanski got together and did a remake of The Tenant crossed with...
Star Wars?
Yeah, exactly. No, the Deneuve film, Polanski, Deneuve.
Oh, hang on, the Polanski Deneuve.
Crud.
You keep talking, I'll remember it.
This is why we've done an hour show. My brain is used up. The batteries are drained. You go and find it. Mention Frown. It's one of my favorite all-time Polanski films. Why can't I think of the title?
Because you're old.
Must be.
Repulsion,
thank you. And then Mention Frauen is again a relationship movie, except in this case it's much more expansive, and it's not about madness per se. It's about 4 women and 1 man, and what the results of 4 women being involved with 1 man in different ways, and psychologically how that affects them. Really a great observation, pretty intensely written, and I kind of makes me want to dig up more of Valley Export's films and become more familiar with her body of work. So anyway, those are from Facets. Highly recommend it. Always look for the Facets limited edition. It's always very interesting. And Mark, did we want to make a last little commentary on this TV movie just because of the Zero Dark 30 controversies?
Yeah, we can. It's a TV movie that aired on National Geographic called SEAL Team 6, The Raid on Osama bin Laden. This was sort of hit the zeitgeist at the same time as the much, much better Zero Dark 30. This is not a great film, however, it is notable because Harvey Weinstein bought this thing in Cannes. And, of course, Harvey is a huge Democratic backer and Obama supporter.
And there were some accusations that it would become an Obama puff piece because he got involved in re-editing it, presumably.
Adding Obama footage to the movie.
Yes, exactly.
And, by the way, I'm sure that is 100% true.
But, at the same time, Catherine Bigelow was a big Obama donor, and everybody attacked her before the movie was made, saying, oh, it's going to be an Obama puff piece, she's an Obama donor. They've had special access to the CIA files, which they shouldn't have had. And then the movie comes out, and now everybody's like, it's a Bush puff piece, it supports torture. You know what that says? It says it's a great movie that really doesn't show it doesn't take a position. It basically just tells you a good story.
Even worse, it says people are stupid. Even worse, it says that people go nowadays. People go up half-cocked.
They do
on the tiniest little wisp of information.
Yeah,
they go, "There's a movie about Obama. It's the Democrats. There's a movie about it's the Republicans." Why don't you just see the movie and decide for yourself and just stop it?
Absolutely.
Anyway, but the point being is that SEAL Team 6, The Raid on Osama bin Laden, is not a good film, and that's all that matters. Although it does star Cam Gigaday, who's like this punky guy.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me when everybody was racing to get those Raid on Entebbe movies out. And Raid on Entebbe, the NBC one that had Yaphet Kotto, was really the better one, the one directed by Irvin Kershner.
Right.
Speaking of Star Wars, the one directed by Irvin Kershner was very, very good. But it was the second one out. ABC raced to screen with this one that had Martin Sheen in it.
Well, there was like Operation Entebbe or something.
Whatever
like that.
it was. It was Victory at Entebbe or something like that. It was a shot on video. They didn't even wait to be able to shoot it on film. It had Martin Sheen. It was really, really poorly done. But ABC had to get that one out ahead of the NBC one. Well, the later one was better. And in this case, SEAL Team 6, they raced it out, but not very good. It's because it just doesn't tell a very interesting story. But I will say, for my money, still best film of the year last year, Zero Dark 30.
Sorry, Wade, it's not going to win.
I know, it probably won't, but it would be cool if it did. All right, with that, we're done. See you guys next week.